On Tuesday, May 24th, an 18-year-old went to Hobbs Elementary in Uvalde, Texas, where he killed 19 children and 2 teachers. I'd like to first give my thoughts and prayers to the victims' families, of course. So, with that, I'll be talking about the actual timeline since there has been many false things circulating in the news. Then I'll get to how this 18-year-old was a major red flag and how no one seemed to notice. After that, I'll talk about how people are blaming people on the right or the left for the deaths of these children and saying that we need to do something. However, they don't ever give specifics on what that something is. And then so I'll kind of propose what I think will help prevent things like this. Then lastly, we'll go over about the monkeypox and the ridiculous claim that Joe Biden has said about this. I'm Solomon, and this is the Solo Show. Again, intro's going to be there one day. We just don't got it yet. So, this past Tuesday, an 18-year-old went to an elementary school where he went and killed 21 people in total. There was a lot of conflicting stories that I've seen coming out saying, that he was met at the door by security, that he stood outside shooting at officers arriving to the scene. And then I heard another story that no one called 911 and that a Border Patrol agent actually went in and took the shooter out alone and with no backup. So I have the official timeline from the Texas Department of Public Safety. And then, let's see. So, this timeline starts in September 2021. This is where the shooter asked his sister to help him buy a gun. So, this was before he turned 18. And she said no. And then from March 1st to March 3rd, it says in 2022, the gunman sends message on Instagram about guns. He says that people have texted him saying, word on the street, you're buying a gun. He says, I just bought something right now. Then March 14th, the gunman makes an Instagram post. The gunman makes an Instagram post with the caption 10 more days. A user comments, are you going to shoot up a school or something? The shooter replies, no, stop asking dumb questions and you'll see. And then so March 16th to March 20th, the shooter purchases guns and ammunition as soon as when he turns 18. Then May 24th, the day of the shooting, it looks like the shooter around 11 a.m., he sends a Facebook message to a girl in Germany and tells her about his plans to shoot his grandmother. Then the gunman shoots his grandmother in the face, who then calls the police. As she's shot, she goes and walks to the neighbor's house and asks them to call the police. And then from there, he steals his grandmother's vehicle and then drives 2 miles to rob an elementary school. So around 11:28, the shooter arrives at the school. The shooter crashes the vehicle in a ditch near the school. He fires his gun at 2 male witnesses who began approaching the crash from a nearby funeral home. The witnesses flee and call 911. And then at 11:30, a teacher calls 911. A teacher at the elementary school makes a 911 call reporting the crash and seeing the shooter, noting he has a gun. And then so the shooter walks towards the school, climbs the fence into the parking lot, and shoots at the school several times. Then at 11:31, the shooter walks through the school parking lot, firing his rifle throughout. Police arrive at the funeral. Then the police arrive at the funeral home. School district police officer speeds in the direction of a person that they think is the man with the gun reported by the teacher, but drives past the gunman and heads back to the school, mistaking a teacher for the shooter. At 11:33, the shooter enters the school through a back door, which a teacher had propped open. He then shoots at least 100 rounds into the classroom 111 and classroom 112, which are both connected. Then at 11:35, Uvalde police enter the school. 3 police officers rush into the same door that the gunman used to enter, which was closed. They enter and receive grazing wounds from the gunman. They retreat. Later, 4 more officers, including a deputy with the Uvalde County Sheriff's Office, enter the school. The gunman fires 16 more rounds at 11:37. Then at 11:43, Uvalde police post on Facebook about the shooting and how it's on lockdown. And then 11:44, police officers are inside. They say they are shot at, move back, and get cover. Let's see. Initial officers are there and receive gunfire. Therefore, do not make entry. Officers call everyone in the area for additional resources, tactical team equipment, body armor, precision rifle, and negotiators. They evacuate students and teachers during this time. So that's 11:44. Then at 11:51, more police officers arrive, and then They're just on the scene. 11:54, you can find videos of onlookers and how there's police just outside and parents are begging the police officers to go into the school. At 12:03 p.m., police continues to arrive and a student from inside calls 911. The student calls back 911 because they hung up previously at 12:10. Then at 12:13, another student calls 911 again. And then at 12:15 p.m., Border Patrol tactical units carry shields on arrival. Students at 12:16, another student calls 911 again. Then 12:17, the Robb Elementary officials announce on Facebook that there's an active shooter on campus. And then, during that time, you have onlookers and parents beg for action. 12:19, again, another student calls 911. 12:21, gunman fires again. 12:36, students in 111 call back. And then 12:43, the gunman shoots the door. And then, let's see, at 12:46, I can hear the student who called 911 says, I can hear the police next door. 12:47, please send the same student says, please send the police now. And then around 12:50, the Border Patrol kills the gunman because they had breached the rooms with a janitor's key, and then they kill the gunman. And then 12:51, children are moved out of the room. And then 1:06, the police announce the shooter is dead. So, it looks like from arrival, 11:28, the shooter lasts all the way until basically 1 o'clock. The shooter is pronounced dead at 11:06, so we're just going to go ahead and say 12:40, the shooter was there. So the shooter had a lot of time. So, there's a lot of outlash against the police officers saying they didn't move fast enough, that they didn't act quick enough, which I completely agree with. There should be an investigation on why those guys either tensed up or why they didn't want to go in. If there's an active shooter at a school, you want to move quickly and precisely. It looked like they had multiple officers there. It looks like they had the tactical gear, but they just were waiting. And, in situations like that, every minute counts. So I hold the police accountable for not moving quickly. So now that we established a timeline of the tragedy, this is what happened this past week. Let's get into how this person was a big red flag. So this is all according to the New York Post. The shooter once showed up to a park with his friends, and when he arrived, the friends noticed there was a whole bunch of scratches on his face, and when asked what happened, the shooter responds to saying that a cat, scratched his face. Then later in the evening, he goes back and tells them what really happened, which is he actually used the knife and cut all along his face. And when asked why he did this, he said it was just for fun. That's right there is the biggest red flag. That's very, you could tell someone wouldn't be actually in the right mental state if they're able to do that. And his friends should have, took it from there and kind of try to get him the help he wanted or needed. Then another friend told reporters that the shooter used to ride around with another friend and they would just shoot random people with BB guns, which is very illegal. I don't know why no one really reported on that or, was able to catch him doing this, because it says he's done it multiple times. He did it multiple times. These are major red flags. One of his loved ones should have reported these actions to the right authorities and helped him out mentally. Then the same New York Post article goes on to talk about the shooter's family's problems, where it seems like the shooter would post arguments between him and his mother on Instagram, and kind of, they're just in screaming matches, cussing at each other. At one point, cops have been called, and he recorded, calling his mother the B word. A whole bunch of problems, and a lot of the problems came from the mother's drug addiction. From what I found, it doesn't look like the father's was nowhere in the shooter's life, and the shooter said, himself that he never loved his father. He didn't love him. And I think a lot of these school shooters, these mass shooters have something in common, and that's common problems at home. I'm not giving sympathy to these shooters and say, they had a reason to do this. No, I don't think so at all. But I think um, a weak family structure doesn't build functioning citizens in America. And I feel like, maybe this one wouldn't have happened if he had a good mother and a father at home that kind of took care of him and loved him. And this is something conservatives have been saying for years. Research has shown that kids that grow up in a stable family or have a mother figure and a father figure in their home tend to do well in society and to do well in life. And I think that's one of the most greatest things that you could have. But this shooter did not, and maybe that caused him to do this shooting. And another thing I've seen is a lot of these kids that are kind of like outsiders in society. They tend to go onto social media and kind of talk to these groups, and then people in these groups they have something wrong with them, and then they kind of adopt their ideology and then go and take action like this. You've seen the Buffalo shooter that killed, I believe it was 10 people in Buffalo, New York, in the supermarket. He said he went on 4chan where he adopted all his new theories. And you have this shooter right here going on the internet talking, saying very reckless things, saying how he was going to shoot up people, he was going to kill his grandmother. He said he was going to rape someone on Yubo, which is like another social media app. And I think this is something we should really take in action and kind of see and kind of prevent things like this from happening. Anyway, so then we have people like Steve Kerr, the head coach of the Warriors, saying that we need to do something. That you have the failure of the political candidate. Then you have the failure of a political candidate, Beto Ruco, interrupting Governor Abbott's conference, saying it's his fault and he should have done something. You have people attacking the NRA and Ted Cruz, saying it's all their fault and they have to do something. All these people are proposing, we have to do something, but never specify exactly what we should do. And then when they do say what we should do, they have no evidence on showing on how it would actually prevent things like these. What I think would help prevent mass shootings is the first being that we should have either 2 or more armed security guards on campus. I think this funding we spend every year, $1.6 trillion, and how we just sent $40 billion to Ukraine. I think we have the funding for this. I don't think that, money would be a problem. And even if it was, the Democrats not wanting to not spend more money is kind of weird. And then, if they don't want to hire more staff, I would suggest arming staff. I wouldn't arm just any staff. I would do 2 to 4 staff members to each school who, have had prior experience with gun safety. I wouldn't, a lot of people bring in like, we don't pay the teachers enough already, and you want them to, want to battle battle mass shooters. And, I wouldn't be against, bonuses or a pay raise for the staff who take on this role, because it is tremendous bravery to do this. They would have to obviously take a yearly mental test to assure they are fit, and like training classes. So, training classes that kind of help them in situations where it's kind of, their nerves are up, their adrenaline's pumping, and how to stay calm, cool, and collected, and make sure everyone gets out safely. Again, which they would get paid for. I've seen people from the left outraged by the idea of arming staff, or arming schools. But if we take a time to just think about all the major federal buildings that are armed, that have armed staff or security guards, our airports, our courtyards, the White House, everything that, in the federal part of the federal government is armed with staff. And you see a lot of these mass shootings happening in gun-free zones, like obviously these shooters are bad people, and if they see, oh, this is a gun-free zone, they're just going to turn around. That's not how this world's going to work. So I think arming those things, they'll kind of second guess it. Again, the shooter in Buffalo, he said that he chose that area because he knew New York had strict gun laws, and he would be at ease knowing that no legally armed citizen would have a firearm, and if they did, they would be restricted to 10 rounds or a cocked firearm. He said that in his manifesto. So I think that's something we should learn from. If these bad people are literally saying why they chose these areas, and and then Ted Cruz pointed out that If we had stronger fences and fewer entrances anyone can enter during the school operation hours, I think that would also be improvement on how to prevent things like this. This guy just jumped over the fence in the parking lot. There was no one there to stop him. No one, it seemed kind of easy for that to happen. If I had a child and I sent him to a school where I knew there was going to be armed guards, where I knew there was strong fences, when I knew there was only certain points of entrances that they could come in, I would feel a lot more at ease thinking that, I'm sending it to my child and he's going to be protected there. Then lastly, you might have heard about the monkeypox. So, who had monkeypox on their 2022 bingo card? Because I surely did not. So, monkeypox is a virus similar to the smallpox. The main difference is with monkeypox, it creates like lesions. So, kind of like if you burn your hand, how you would kind of have those, I don't know, bumps. So the symptoms basically start with a fever, a headache, muscle aches, and exhaustion. Then 1 to 3 days from infection, you'll start having rashes starting around the face. You'll have it kind of expanding to other parts of the body. And then lesions are filled with fluid on your hands and other places on your body, and then they scab up and then finally fall off. So, according to CBC News, or CBS News, 1 of every 10 people die due to the virus, so it has about a 10% death rate. Joe Biden came out and says we need to be as cautious, or we need to care about it basically as much as COVID. This is absolutely ridiculous since it's transmitted through bodily fluids and more of human contact, not really through an aerosol or aerosol. I said that completely wrong, but we're just going to leave that in. But through air, basically. And, like COVID, it wasn't through air, it was through touch. So you really don't have anything to worry about, because this next part is kind of going to explain why you don't need to worry about it. So apparently in Europe, there was a gay pride type of thing. And, that was a 5-day period. And there was these, spa houses where people part of the LGBTQIA plus group went to, and they basically had an orgy and kind of spreaded it through there. And media is not covering it the way it is at all, because they don't want a stigma of that gay people basically sleep around, which is basically how this outbreak started. So it was a 5-day rave party, whatever you want to call it, and they were just kind of having sex with a lot of people, and they kind of spreaded it through there. And so if you look now, I believe all but 3 of the men are gay that have it, and I believe the toll is about 57. There's only 3 in the United States, so that's the 57 is worldwide. So there's only 3 in the United States whom all are gay. So if you want to stay safe, it looks like you just don't go and sleep around with random people at a rave. So luckily, I won't be doing that at all, because I am a taken man, soon to be married man. So let's see. So basically with that, you don't have to worry about it at all. It's not as big as COVID. So that's all I have for you guys today. Have a blessed day, and I'll see you guys next week.